the final frontier.
And I mean from the top.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Sir, the Federation does have enemies. We must seek them out.
Yes. That's how it starts.
If we're all here, where's Sulu? Captain Sulu.
But we can only look forward.
Warning! Warning!
We have to be torchbearers, casting the light so we may see our path to lasting peace. We will continue exploring, discovering new worlds, new civilizations.
Is that all this meant to you? Just another spatial anomaly, just another day of the office.
Do you ever see Star Trek?
The three of us and millions of primitive humans. I like those odds. Kapla!
It looks like Star Trek, it acts like Star Trek, and it feels like... All right, welcome to TrekCast. I am Chad Waldo, and with me today is, of course, Daniel Reyes, but we are missing Dan Lombardo. We're missing one of the trio here. We know why, Daniel, but the audience may or may not know why, so we've got a little audio clip and video clip that Dan sent in to kind of explain, and get right into the show. We'll just play it right now.
All right.
Hey everyone, it's Dan. I just wanted to record a quick message for you guys. I'm obviously not on the show today. Got quite a few things going on at home. Some of you may be aware, my daughter was born about a week ago. She was born very premature, so she's been in the neonatal intensive care unit, the NICU, since last Thursday. She's doing great. But, you know, that hospital's about a 45-minute drive from where I live, so back and forth every day. It's just a lot, and it's a little too much to do that and do the show today. But, you know, I wanted to record a message for you guys, let you know what's going on, let you know why you're stuck with those two jokers today. But yeah, so today we're taking my son to meet his sister for the first time. We're really excited. He's really excited, and that's why I'm not on the show. So these guys got a great show planned for you today. Have fun. Just remember, birds are real. Chad is wrong, and I'll be back soon. So live long and prosper. And Lombardo to Defiant, one to beam up.
Okay. So,
There we go.
Yeah.
Now you people know.
Now everybody knows, yeah. That's pretty good. I like his little effects that he did there. All the way down to a combat. All the way down to the oh, I watched it.
Yeah.
All the way down to the comm badge.
Nice.
Yeah. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So and I'm going to go ahead and apologize right now. Anybody who's listening or watching this show isn't going to know the hell that I put Daniel through over the last 4 hours to record this show. It's kind of ridiculous, but we had the worst technical difficulties ever. I couldn't even get Skype to load for the last 4 hours, so let alone all the other stuff that goes into it. So some of what we're going to talk about, we've actually already recorded once today, Daniel. We got to do it all over again.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's okay.
The good thing about this is it lets us announce our new merchandise store on redbubble.com.
That's right.
Because of all the time waiting, I finally put it together. So...
you got a whole working day in while I messed around on my Mac, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, so guys, you can get shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, pretty much anything on Redbubble, and we have 3 different designs, one for each of us, kind of.
Yeah.
So we've got the podcasting from a van down by the river, and it's got I made them, so I think they're cool.
Yeah.
So it's got a cool van, on it, and it's for Dan clearly. There's my own, which is the corgi, the Korga personality.
Yeah.
It's the giant corgi head, and then we've got, of course, Chad is wrong.
Of course.
Real big and bright. Let them know.
I'm gonna have to get a hoodie. I'm gonna have to get a millennial hoodie and a vape pen to go with my Chad is wrong hoodie. and then I'll have it on the show.
Can you get a hair tie for your man bun that says chadiswrong?
My hair's not long enough, but I can get a wig and pretend like I got a man bun.
There you go. Yeah. So
I shave the beard, so I can't really do that,
No.
But hey, it is what it is. So what a weekend.
Yeah, it's been a crazy weekend.
One of the stories I told Daniel the first time around was my little July 4th story here in the United States, for those of you listening outside of the U.S. And we do have quite a few listeners, if you're curious about that. I would say probably about, 30%, it seems like? Somewhere in there.
It varies.
It does. But kind of right now, looking at it, it seems like about 30% of our overall audience comes from overseas, outside of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, this weekend was 4th of July for us. It's the weekend we celebrate kicking the British's ass. And it also means that that's the time when we go and exchange money for explosives that we can legally light off in our front yards. So. And we didn't have a whole lot anyway, on the Thursday here because it was pouring all day long, 8-9 hours worth of rain. Totally killed everybody's 4th of July spirits. Didn't stop raining until about 11 o'clock at night. So on Friday is when we shot off fireworks at my folks' house, and I got a nice shrapnel exchange right to the face. So
yeah, that's no good.
There's a 3 or 4 year old Roman candle that blew up about 6 feet off the ground, and it hit me right here, bounced in between my glasses and went out. Got me. Actually, I didn't tell you this, Daniel. It burned a hole in my shirt.
Oh wow!
But my glasses, I'm not wearing them, obviously. But my glasses are so messed up that you can kind of see what happened to them. That's on the inside, not the outside. They're not cracked. They're melted in those spots from the inside, not the outside. So when it hit my face and then bounced, that's when it melted the inside of the glasses. Crazy.
Jeez.
It was crazy. So anyway.
Did you have to go to the emergency room for that?
No. I got up, cussed, threw my glasses down because they were hot.
Right.
And kind of walked away and was holding my eye, hoping to God I wasn't going to see blood or something because I could feel it right here.
Yeah.
And my daughter, my littlest one, she's 11. Bless her heart. She ran inside, grabbed a bunch of paper towels, soaked them, ran back outside. That's a long way from where we were at. But she did it by the time I was 5 feet away from my chair I was sitting in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a nice cold compress over my eye, and that's when we figured out, no, it hit right here, thankfully.
Yeah, right under the eye socket.
You can kind of see a little puffiness, red dot there maybe. I got lucky. I got real lucky. So
yeah, you did.
But anyway.
Safety goggles next time.
Yeah, the kind that go all the way down to here. The whole... Actually, I should just go get those...
welding mask?
Yeah, exactly.
Just hockey pads and a welding mask?
Yeah, I should just stay as far away from the things as possible.
Yeah.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, you never really hear about that. But
no, you don't. It's got to happen to somebody somewhere. So there you go. It happened to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, you had a good weekend?
Yeah. Just a lot of time with family. Saw the new Spider-Man, which was really good. In the time that we first tried to record, and now the women's team won the World Cup, so that's cool.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Nice.
So USA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we win in a sport we don't care about, people. That's how we are. Now I can't hear Chad. He's completely. His audio just went away. He's kind of just not happy about that.
Now you can hear me.
Now I hear you.
You know what happened?
What happened?
I moved the microphone.
How dare you? Did you move? You just bumped it?
Yeah, I bumped it, and the back of the cord just came. I mean, this is just par for the course. I shouldn't be touching anything electrical or anything that's got any kind of chemicals involved in it. I mean,
it's like you're a crappy X-Men with technology.
My powers are to completely destroy anything technical while I'm.
Your X-Men name would be Amish.
Yeah, exactly. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Go churn some butter.
Oh man, I can just picture the type of goatee on my face right now.
There you go. ZZ Top.
Yeah. Because I couldn't use shavers or clippers or anything. I'd cut myself. I'd find some way.
Yeah.
Anyway, jeez, I tell you what, man. My luck. All right, so another thing that came up too, which I guess we'll go right into the news, right? Which
Yeah.
let's hope to God I can actually. This is where things went wrong the last time. I hit
Yeah,
one button
let's do it.
and they all died. So let's just see if we can get. Oh no!
We're trying it.
Attention all hands. It's time for Star Trek news.
And I did take the volume coming out of the soundboard down a peg because someone in the last week or two was saying, "Oh my God, I went deaf when those audio tones, when those effects came up." So, hey, if they're not too loud for you, then great. They're not too loud for you, okay? Otherwise, we're deafening people and they can't listen to us anymore. So, okay, on with the news. One thing I wanted to mention, if you didn't see it in the last like 2 or 3 hours, because it's been like a week since we tried to record this morning, Rosalind Chow or Cho or whatever, Keiko.
Yeah.
From DS9?
Yeah.
She's in the live-action Mulan movie.
I saw that. Yeah, I was going to mention that.
The trailer hit today in the last few hours, and it's her. I think she's Mulan's mom or something. Yeah, that's what it seems like. So haven't seen anything from Keiko in a long time, and I can't say I was really looking forward to it. But, hey, Mulan looks good. So
yeah, Mulan does look good. Kind of sad that there's no dragon. I was reading that.
Oh,
There's
really?
No Mushu. Yeah.
Why not?
Because I first saw the trailer and I thought, oh, they learned from the genie. They're not showing the dragon.
Yeah.
And then I read somewhere that, nope, there's just no dragon.
How do you do Mulan without the dragon?
Maybe Eddie Murphy asked for too much money because he could still do the voice.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like saying we're going to do the movie Peter Pan live action, but we're not going to have Peter Pan or Wendy.
Well, I mean, the dragon's not... Well, he's pretty important. I don't know.
He's pretty important.
Yeah.
He's basically her... he's her guide the whole way through, really.
Well, unless they're doing more of the legend than the Disney version.
Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe.
Whatever. It'll probably be cool.
Hey, at least it makes it different than just a shot for shot of the cartoon.
Which is what Lion King looks like. I'm not really thrilled about seeing that movie.
I want to see it, man.
No. I'll wait until it comes out on Apple TV.
There you go. All right, so our first news story, speaking of movies, comes from Deadline.com. And we're learning a little bit more about what's going on at Comic-Con this year. And on July 20th in Hall H at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we're going to hear about the entire Star Trek universe. That's the name of the presentation.
That's the name of it? The entire Star Trek universe?
Enter the Star Trek universe.
Okay, I was going to say.
Sorry.
Enter,
I'm
it's the same
in the
thing.
description.
Yeah.
They're talking about how they're talking about the entire shows. Like they're going to be talking about Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks. They're saying that the cast and the producers will be there. What's not clear though is which cast. I imagine Discovery. They might bring out Picard's cast. Well, are they going to bring out the voice actors for Lower Decks?
Yeah, I mean,
it's not clear.
Look, and I understand why they want to bring this thing to the big it's the biggest Comic-Con of the year. Well, is it bigger than New York, or is New York bigger? I think
New York's second. New York is second.
Yeah, okay. So San Diego Comic-Con is the biggest one of the year.
Right.
I understand why they want to bring everything they can Star Trek wise to that. But wouldn't they be holding some things back for STLV still? I mean, come on. It's STLV in Vegas.
What I could see them doing is here's the cast of Picard at Comic-Con, and then maybe doing here's footage at Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So you just split it up.
Because there's got to be more footage done by now. There has to be plenty of footage they can show.
Well,
more than the Kid and Play guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because they finished up the Riker episodes, which is episodes 3 and 4. He's already done shooting those.
Yeah, that's right, 3 and 4. He said he did call them a pair, so he's doing 2 at a time. Yep.
Yeah, because they're calling them blocks. So
yeah, that's right.
So yeah,
pilot's done. 2 and 3 are done, and then somebody else said that their blocks were done too, weren't they? So that would be 4 and 5. I thought somebody else after Frakes said that their blocks were done.
Well, I didn't read that they were done. I think that they were beginning. But
maybe that's what it is. Maybe they were getting started. Okay.
Yeah, but even then, yeah. But by the time, I mean, 3 or what would they be? 5 and 6 should be done by the time Comic-Con rolls around. Yeah, and they can just show rough footage. They don't.
Yeah.
It's not like they have to show a lot to get everybody excited.
No. Yeah.
So
No, it wouldn't take much.
no. So that's pretty cool. The other cool thing is, so later on in that same day at 2:30 in Ballroom 20, so not Hall H, we're gonna learn more about the Orville season 3.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. So producers, the cast is gonna be there, including Seth MacFarlane, Adriana Padalecki, Penny Johnson, Gerald, Scott Grimes will be there. Hopefully he sings. Yeah. But yeah, so that'll be cool. They plan to show a special sneak peek of the upcoming 3rd season.
Nice.
So I don't know what that means. I don't know if they're shooting yet, or if it's just like storyboards and talk a little bit about the storyline.
Well, isn't it gonna hit in December? They got to be shooting by now if they're gonna have a September or December.
I haven't heard of an actual official release yet.
Oh, okay.
When they're expecting it. So yeah.
Well, didn't this year's come out a little late?
It barely came out for this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, or for last year.
Last year, end of December, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they've been doing, kind of, but I wonder if they'll do that again or not.
Yeah, I don't know. So
that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So a quick shout out for anybody who's going to be at San Diego Comic-Con in 2 weeks. So when's it start? The 18th or something like that? Or
something like that.
18th
18th or 19th.
Something like that, yeah. Anybody who's going to be there and wants to give a report from the field, we will put it on our show because we'll be recording that weekend of San Diego Comic-Con, the Sunday, right after all the big announcements in Hall H. So if you're there, you want to record something, you want to send in some photos, put those in the group on Facebook, that would be awesome. We can put them up on our website and start doing the old collages we used to do from all of these big events when people take photos. It's what we used to have on TrekCast way back in the day, all the photos from the STLVs, right? We had big groups and everything else. So we need to start doing that again. And as an added little thing, we do actually have a phone number for the show. So if you're if you're not in Facebook, or you don't have an easy way of sending us an audio clip to one of our emails, and you just want to record something easy and be done, then you can call 1-816-873-8448. I'm having to read that carefully because I don't have my glasses on. But anyway, that number works anywhere in the world. You can call, leave a voicemail. I will get it, and we will put it in the show. That's the easiest way I can imagine anybody leaving us a message that they want to share. And there's no caller ID on it. You don't even have to say your name if you don't want to. So if you want to remain anonymous, and and share some thoughts with us, you can do that as well. So
cool. So our next news story comes from trekmovie.com, and also at the end of July, we are getting the Star Trek Discovery Season 2 official soundtrack for the series. So that's going to be released. That'll be released digitally on the 19th, and physical media will follow soon after that, which includes CD and vinyl, but we don't have those specific dates. So
nice.
Yeah. So if you want the soundtrack, you can definitely get that. And our last news story, it's two of them that I'm going to kind of mash together because they're both pretty small and easy. The first one comes from cnet.com. And for those of you with Amazon Prime, we've got 5 Star Trek movies heading to Prime at the end of July. So if you have Prime, I have Prime. It's great. End of July on the 31st. Yeah, July 31st. We will be getting with your subscription, so it's free to watch with your subscription. We'll get Generations, The Voyage Home, Undiscovered Country, First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis. So all the next gen movies and a couple of the older ones.
Yeah.
So, pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the final news story comes from klove.radio.com. This is my favorite headline.
From K-Love.
Bank of Canada asks Star Trek fans to stop drawing Spock on their $5 bills.
I've seen this all over my news feed the last 2 or 3 days. It's hysterical.
It's great. So people have been drawing Canada's 7th Prime Minister, Sir Wilfrid Laurier, who's on their 5, and they're drawing Spock hair and pointy ears and the eyebrows, and it looks hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So Canada's asking that you stop that, and they're sorry about asking you to stop that.
Yeah, exactly.
My other favorite thing about being on the K-Love website, for those of you who are in the area, apparently this is in Texas, Michael McDonald and Shaka Khan will be playing at the Toyota Music Factory Pavilion on July 13th. And the next day, so get your tickets for both, is Rock the Yacht, also at the Toyota Music Factory. So enjoy.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Michael motherfucking McDonald. That's
right.
As our boy up there in Spuds Country in Idaho there says.
Yeah, no kidding. So
all you space lizards that might be listening and know who I'm talking about.
There's like 3 people that listen to our show and that one that will understand that.
Exactly, yeah, but it's hysterical.
And the 3 that know that is the hosts.
Yeah, it's the 2 of us, yeah. Well, definitely Dan, too, yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
All right, now we're going to move on to the feedback?
Yeah, let's do it.
Incoming subspace signal.
Okay, so kind of getting back to the Picard thing, and grapes and wine, and how I said it's not shooting in Canada because there is no vineyard in Canada. It does not exist. So Paris Vaughn from O Canada, I want to play this just for you, buddy.
Okay, good day. Welcome to the Great White North. Go. Go again. Beautiful. Okay, good day. Welcome to the Great White North. I'm Bob McKenzie. This is my brother Doug.
How's it going, eh?
And whoa, did you hear about what? Well, you can tell.
Okay, you hear about the guy who was opening a beer, eh? And
this is
went
Canada.
To drink and then did the stupid thing of looking in the bottle and whoa, there's a mouse in his bottle, eh?
Real mouse. Well, I guess
I'm like
it
2
was
hours
dead,
from
right?
Canada.
Drowned.
I know.
Drunk, too.
Happy
It died.
It had a smile on its face, eh?
It died.
I could keep going forever, eh?
Oh, yeah.
So
put on our toque, eh?
Yeah, so he posted that there are vineyards up in Canada, eh? And I was like, oh really? Are those where they grow the ice wine? That's just for you. And if for those of you who don't know what the hell I'm talking about, go and Google Great White North album on YouTube or something or whatever, and go listen to the Doug and Dave McKenzie. Holy crap, that's Canada right there. Okay, so
it is. Yeah.
So that's one of the feedbacks I had from Paris. Yes, there are vineyards in Canada. I had no idea their growing season would allow for that. I didn't think it was that long. The few times that I've been in Canada has always been in February. So, I have a different impression of it.
I once heard a statistic about Canada that puts me a little bit on edge. 70% of their population is within 100 miles of the border.
Yeah.
So they're preparing to invade.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
What was that movie with Dan Aykroyd where they go and invade Canada?
No. Canada invades the U.S. Canadian Bacon.
Canadian Bacon. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now I want to go watch that. So thank you for that, Paris. I appreciate it.
So we also posted in the Facebook group, which if you're not in the Facebook group, guys, you got to be part of it. We posted that we were going to be doing the show this weekend. And I asked everybody, hey, hit us up with your comments, questions, whatever, and reasons why Harry Kim will never be promoted.
Yeah.
So, one of the questions we got was from Zachary Thompson. And his question is, why did Shran call humans pink skins? Was it only because he saw Archer first, or was it because Andorian antennae pick up a pink electric aura around all humans that we just don't know about?
I think it's because if you look at what the environment is for if you look at their environment to begin with, okay, and then you look at the aliens they've met so far, right? They hadn't met anybody with actual skin tones like us. That either met Vulcans, who kind of have a gray-green going on.
Right.
They'd met, I'm just totally losing my train of thought.
Oh,
the pig people.
The Tellarites.
yeah, the Tellarites.
Yeah.
They don't have really, they're just hairy whatever. They know what Klingons look like. They're fairly dark. So Yeah, if that's the first human you ever see is Archer, yeah, he certainly looks like a pink skin. So,
well, yeah,
he didn't meet Mayweather first.
Yeah.
So
it
makes sense.
I also think Shran is kind of racist, using those racist terms.
Yeah, because that's Jeffrey Combs.
That's exactly what it is.
That's a great Jeffrey Combs right there. So
yeah,
not that he's racist, but I mean he's just.
I'm gonna let you just sit on that landmine.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway,
okay.
He's funny, is what I'm getting at. But
yeah, he is funny. I can't wait for Nightmare 2 or whatever that was.
Frightmare, yeah.
Frightmare, yeah.
He was definitely taken aback by that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. What else did we get? Few people asked this one question. Do we think that Control will eventually become the Borg? Chad is so mad about this.
Oh my gosh. No, it's not. Okay, look, it is possible because it's the writers of Disco, and they don't really seem to care that much about canon to a certain extent, right?
Right.
So if they wanted to, they could come up with some. Well, this is how they would do it. If they were going to do, I thought about this. If they were going to do it, this is how they would do it, because it would have to be all about Michael. Everything we've ever known, loved, seen, cared about, or watched involving Star Trek in the last 50 years is only due to the actions of Michael Burnham. We are seeing the creation of everything that we know of in Star Trek come from all of her actions. So what will happen is somehow she'll have to fight Control yet again, and she'll send it way into the past, into the Delta Quadrant, and that's where the Borg come from. Way in the past in the Delta Quadrant, right?
Right.
We learned that in Voyager. That's where they're actually from.
Yeah.
And they've been there for thousands of years or 1,000 years or whatever. I mean, Janeway makes somewhere. I know that comment gets made. I mean, that's
right.
That's right there how we know that Control can't be the Borg for right now, unless they somehow rewrite that. If they want to rewrite canon, hell, they're already doing it with the Spore Drive. So, I mean, whatever. Anything's possible. They're writing a new show. Anything's possible. So, but with that said, as of right now, in established canon, Control and the Borg are two totally separate things. Control is a purely physical or a purely AI. It's not a physical thing. The Borg are a physical thing. Now, could they become that? No, and here's why. They have two different mission goals.
Mm-hmm.
The Borg are there to assimilate, to find perfection. Control is there for a whole nother reason.
Yeah.
Which I forget now, but whatever.
It was never really clear, like it was supposed to protect the Federation by killing it? Like, I didn't understand.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I think it loses its mind down the road and is trying to kill everything. But
goes Ultron on them.
Yeah, but I think initially what it's trying to do is trying to control everything.
Yeah.
But in the way it doesn't need to have funky apparatuses shoved on the people's bodies. It doesn't need to assimilate anybody. It just infects them with its nanites and becomes that person.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, it's more advanced than the Borg. So the two don't.
They don't mesh.
They don't mesh. And if the writers ever go and do that, I'll get pissed. But anyway.
So David Yee also would like to point out that perhaps Harry Kim never was promoted because he suffers from severe PTSD for leaving behind his original clarinet back in the Alpha Quadrant. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
I think Harry Kim's never promoted because Harry Kim is Harry Kim.
Yeah, he's the Boy Scout of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And then we also got a video message from Michael Gutierrez.
Yeah.
Yeah, should we play that now?
Yep, let's play that now.
Hey, Trekcast, it's Mike from Bakersfield, California. And my question for you is if you could delete anything from canon, what would you delete and why? So these works wouldn't cease to exist. They just wouldn't be considered part of, the larger canonical universe. It would enjoy the same status that most of the animated series enjoys. So writers of future series wouldn't be compelled to abide by what's laid out in those episodes that you've decided are no longer canon. But if people wanted to enjoy them, they could. So what would you delete? For me, the first thing I would delete is Star Trek Discovery. I know a lot of people enjoy them, but typically the people who enjoy Star Trek Discovery also don't really care about canon. And they ridicule people who have a problem with Discovery for being obsessed with canon. So, I mean, if you don't really care about canon, I realize that this isn't everyone. But if it doesn't matter that much to you, screw it. Just say it's no longer canon. You know, you can continue to enjoy Star Trek Discovery. There can be future seasons, but it's just not part of the larger canonical universe. I would also get rid of, I think it's either Code of Honor or Matter of Honor. I'm not sure. That's an episode from Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, because it's just bad. It's a little racist. It would be best if it didn't exist. Let's see. I would also get rid of Prophets and Lace from Deep Space Nine, just because it's stupid. But the one thing I would definitely get rid of is Threshold from Star Trek Voyager. There are not Janeway, Paris, lizard babies in the Delta Quadrant. That didn't happen. You know, I mean, yeah, you can see the episode, but it's not canon. Why? Because it's stupid. It's stupid as all hell. So those are the things. I would also get rid of 2009. Like the 15 to 30 minutes that takes place in the Prime universe, also, poof, gone. Didn't happen. Don't have to worry about it. Don't have to worry about, you know, how is it that the Klingons look so freaking crazy in the Kelvin timeline? They don't look like they do in the Prime timeline. Don't have to worry about it. Just doesn't exist as far as canon goes. You want to watch it? Knock yourself out. Have fun. But it's not canon. That's what I wish. I wish CBS would set up a council, or just me, just hire me to say what is and isn't canon. I know that's impossible. Let's say that you could, though. What would you delete? Why would you delete it? Be really interested to hear what you guys have to say.
Okay, so he wants us to basically talk about canon and something that we would remove from canon if we could. And
except for Discovery.
Yeah, well, that was his choice, was Discovery.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of thinking about this for a while now. The only thing that I think seems weird that could have been explained better, or either just remove it entirely, was very early on in TNG. They had those. We've talked about it before. The little worms that take over people.
Yeah.
And then that thread just is completely dropped off and never.
Conspiracy. Yeah.
Yeah. That. Like, if you're not going to follow that thread and it's a big threat like that, then what was the point of doing it? You know?
Yeah.
Might as well just cut it out.
Just cut it. It wouldn't impact anything. You could cut it out very easily because you're right. There's no pickup on it at all.
Yeah.
Here's what I would cut out, and I don't have to think about this at all because you already pointed out Threshold, which was great.
Yeah.
No lizard babies.
Those lizard babies need to live.
Yeah. So here's what I would cut out: Wesley Crusher. Period.
Yeah, I could see that.
He's got no impact moving forward. Outside of TNG in a couple of episodes, he has no impact.
You know, honestly, I think you could cut out Lore.
Yeah, you could. Well,
a lot of his episodes are just one-offs, and they don't really have an impact. I mean, kind of Data, because he's like, oh, I want a family.
Yeah.
But
they don't stick with any of that either, and they don't stick with his daughter after that whole thing. He doesn't try to do it again, you know, so it's kind of... Yeah, I could see that. Even Lore's taking over a cell of the Borg gets started and dropped and whatever.
Yeah.
So, but hey.
Yeah.
All right, well, those are our picks.
Mm-hmm.
You have any other emails?
The one thing you keep, though, is Porthos. You keep Porthos.
Oh, you have to keep Porthos.
Yeah.
You do have to keep Porthos. So.
All right, what were we going to say?
Do you have any other feedback email-wise or on the Facebook group or anything else?
No, just Michael Medina talking about his love of Frasier.
Yeah, which I do love. I do love Frasier.
Yeah.
Kelsey Grammer's pretty cool. So, anyway, okay, so I got one thing. I don't think we mentioned this the last time around. That doesn't say 11. That doesn't say 1. It says 11. I can't read. Don't forget the coffee account, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So our most recent donation, which is from 9 days ago, which was in between our last show and now, and actually Mike Medina, 11 days ago, donated again. Mike just continues to be our top donor. Appreciate that, buddy. So,
yeah.
And then Sam Rasmussen also donated as well, and unlike Mike, he left a message, and it says, "Love the show, bought one coffee for each of you guys, second time contributing, but I'll probably make it a monthly thing, predictable support for the most unpredictable Star Trek podcast. Thanks for the great show." And we appreciate the support, Sam. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
thank
nice.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps. That's, we haven't spent any of that money yet, obviously, but hey, it's allowing us to feel comfortable in spending some money on the show, which is the soundboard, which allows me to do things like this.
So fetch. What is fetch?
Stop trying to make fetch happen.
Or even better yet, like this.
I also have Mexican judo. You don't know if I got a gun. You don't know if I got a knife. You don't know if I got friends outside me.
That's right.
So, and of course, the inevitable.
Shut up, Wesley.
So we'll have a whole board here filled up at some point, and if you send me an audio recording with something funny, I might just use that on the soundboard to throw into the deal. So, anyway. One of the things that's going to come up in that coffee account that Daniel and I have talked about, and I started working on, and I'm almost done with it, is basically prizes for being on that coffee account. You can only get it if you support the show, even if it's just once, and it'll be a digital download you can get from the coffee account, exclusive to those who are supporting the show. And I'm not going to say any more about it than that. Yeah. Let it be a surprise.
Yeah.
It'll be funny, but it'll be a surprise. Okay. Anything else on that end of it?
No, not on that end. We're good.
Okay, great. Moving into the topic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course,
Trekcast.
There you go.
So, did an interview here a couple weeks back with a couple of guys who did a little show on YouTube called Star Trek New Voyages. Turned out to be bigger than just a little thing. Star Trek New Voyages was really the beginning of what future-looking fan films and things like that would look like online, basically. And they did this starting back in 2005, 2006. Some of it was all the way back in 2003. If you go look up some of their earliest stuff, it's so bad, it's awesome. There's a scene they have on one of their clips with a guy playing Richard Nixon, and it's so awful. It's just you gotta love it. So,
Nice.
But once they got into where they were doing the Star Trek New Voyages and the shows that they were doing there, it's actually pretty well done. I will say that in hindsight, looking at it now, it doesn't look as good. And Star Trek Continues is still one that looks fantastic. It's hard to beat that.
Right.
But it was done more modern times too. So 10 years in the future from when James Crowley, the guy who created Star Trek New Voyages, started doing it. But it's fascinating. And Andy Bray and Jimmy Lynn or Johnny, Jimmy or Johnny Lim. Sorry, guys. You'll hear their names when I start the interview. Anyway, they were actually actors on Star Trek New Voyagers, and they were trying to become actors at the time as well. And they got cast. And Andy Bray got to play the young Chekhov, and Mr. Lim got to play the young Sulu. And they did a fantastic job. If you go and kind of watch these on YouTube, they're really good. And so, 10, 12, 14 years later, they decided to write a book together about making fake Trek. And that's what the book is called, Making Fake Trek. And that's what the interview's about. And maybe you're not into fan films. Maybe you haven't even watched Star Trek New Voyages. Maybe it's not your kind of thing to read a documentary, basically, is what it kind of is. But I will say this. It's funny. It's got a lot of cool, insightful things in the background. And Walter Koenig himself was part of this production and knew these gentlemen pretty well. Andy Bray more so than Mr. Lim, but Jimmy, Johnny. But hey, it's really entertaining. I got an advanced copy of the book. It's available on Amazon right now. I got to read it. It's really good. Anybody listening should read this as well. Should read it as well, even if you've never seen Star Trek: New Voyages. So, with that, we'll go right into the interview.
Sweet.
All right. There we go.
All right, I can see you.
Yep. Oh, let me turn on the video.
Yeah. There we go. Now we're perfect.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Now it works. What do you know? No more Chekhov hair.
I know. It's been a while since the Chekhov. I do have a wig in the closet.
Do you?
You want to put it on since we're doing a video cast?
That's funny. Well, all right. So, first off, I want to apologize. I am not done reading the book, but I am having a blast reading it. I finally got started on it on Tuesday, and I plan on starting earlier than that, but Tuesday was when I first got started. I was traveling on the road quite a bit, so I figured I'd have every night in a hotel room to read. And I had about 3 hours one night, 2 hours the next, and I mean, I'm blasting through it. It's a fun read. You guys did a fabulous job on it.
Oh,
so
thank you.
Even though I'm not done, I mean, I can tell you, anybody who's listening on at this end of it, this book, Making Fake Trek, is one you want to pick up. This is an excellent book. So
thanks.
Thank you.
So let's get right into it, though. I mean, from my standpoint, the way we do interviews is I kind of jot down a couple things I want to talk about, but I kind of let you guys drive it, and you say what you want to say. You know, and
that
so
works.
Starting right off the bat, I mean, what's the first thing you guys want to tell the audience?
Go buy the book.
Yeah. That was the obvious plug, right? It's up on Amazon. There we are. That's it. We're done. No.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us on. And the first thing I want to say is that we've had both Star Trek fans and non-Star Trek fans read this book, and both have given us really great feedback. And we tried to write a book that was accessible in general. So, you know, as much as you will love it if you're a Star Trek fan, we have a lot of references and a lot of trivia and a lot of different things that connect to the fan film. We also wanted to write a book that was just accessible to anyone who wanted to read about what it's like to act in something that's kind of an odd phenomenon. You know, this whole idea of what is a fan film. In fact, I think we have a chapter in there where we talk about this debate that we had back in the day. Like, what is this? Is it an indie film? It's not a studio film, but it's got elements of a studio film. And so that was one of the things that we wanted to really capture, was that this was just its own creation, its own phenomenon.
Yeah. And the two surprises, like the comments we get that surprise people the most is, I guess, one, people see the name Making Fake Star Trek and they think we're kind of making fun of fan films, and it's a slight. We thought it was a funny, hooky title, and it was, self-deferential. But the book itself is very much, in favor of New Voyages and the people who worked on it, and it's a positive story. But at the same time, it's funny, and it's about all the trouble we got into and all the hijinks. And that's the other thing too. This is not an encyclopedia. This is not a Wikipedia page on New Voyages, the fan film. This is a humorous autobiography about two actors in way over their heads, involved in Star Trek, meeting their hero, and then just desperately trying to get a fan film finished that doesn't look like it's going to get finished like the entire time.
Yeah, I'm sure. There's lots of ups and downs. I'm at that point now where I'm starting to read about some of the ups and downs and the things you guys went through. So, and I can't say that as well. It is funny as hell. I think out of the two of you, I think, Andy, your sense of humor and mine are probably almost the same. So, I mean, it is. There's times where I'm just laughing out loud. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm still reading. So, it's pretty good. It's pretty entertaining. So, and I have done a few other interviews in the past with people who've done fan films as well. Vic Monaghan, I can never pronounce Vic's last name, and Michelle Speck. They did a different take on the Star Trek Continues kind of thing that they did, and they did a fantastic job, much kind of the same way you guys did on New Voyages, where you made it look like the original series and all the original jelly buttons and everything else. So, I mean, that's a question I have. I mean, when I'm reading it in the book, John, you first walk on set with Crowley, Kirk, Elvis, and are blown away by the set. I mean, it's still there in Ticonderoga, right?
Yeah, it's changed locations. When we were filming the episode, it was actually in a neighboring town called Port Henry at a former used car dealership. Its current location now, I think, is back in Ticonderoga, where it now serves as a set tour.
Right.
I always felt like it was better positioned or better built to be a museum piece than an actual working set. Because the floors, they would creak walking across the bridge. It would creak.
Oh, no.
Not ideal for a filming set, and there were times when James would even say, like, I fell asleep once just waiting for a shot on Chekhov's console and just sleeping. Like, Andy, you can't lean on that. It'll break.
Oh, no.
So I think its life as a museum piece is perfect. This is like the perfect destination for this set. But the Port Henry location was hilarious because walking in there on the outside, it looks like an old car dealership, big garage doors. And
very
you walk inside,
nondescript.
there's even paint cans still from its life as a car dealership, paint cans and grease rags.
Oh,
and then you
man.
walk onto this bridge, and it's incredible. It's like, who expected the 23rd century in a tiny little town in upstate New York?
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, fan films in general sometimes over the years gives themselves a little bit of a bad rep for some of the production values. You guys know what I'm talking about when I say that. It's not like that on New Voyages. Sure, there's some times looking back on it now. This is 2019. If you're watching it and you get on YouTube, which you can, all 15. Actually, that I had so much fun with this, and you guys will know what I'm going to talk about the minute I say it. Richard Nixon.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Our sound guy. He loved doing
Ralph Miller.
Yeah, I mean, that was the funniest thing. I haven't laughed so hard in a long time. But moving into when you're actually doing the filming on the bridge and everything else that you guys did, it still looks great. It holds up. Yeah. I mean, especially when you think of it as it didn't really have much of it did, but it didn't have much of a budget, right? I mean, it's 2019, it's 2005. Either way you look at it, it takes a lot of money to make something look like what people expect to see nowadays.
Yeah, we had a lot of people volunteer time, and the effects artists, Doug Drexler for a while, and then 3 other folks. Joel, do you remember their names?
Joel, Dave Barry, and I don't remember the third one, but I mean,
and they came in and effects last minute, and for free, and so you can't really take shots at something given to you for free. They did the best they could. It still holds up. I mean, it was a quick effort and to get it done, and it still holds up. And I think the cost of that would normally nowadays would be so high, but
you couldn't
back
do
then,
it. You couldn't do
it.
it.
You couldn't. Fan films couldn't afford to do it without that kind of free help. But it holds up.
Yeah, and that gets into the whole Axonar thing, which we can either agree to not go over that or talk about it later. I don't really want to go there right now, but let's back up for a second, because there's going to be plenty of people who are going to watch this or listen to this and at this point in time not know what the hell we're talking about, okay? Obviously we're talking about a book that you guys wrote, and we're talking about a fan film you guys both starred in as Chekhov, Andy, and as Sulu, John. And you can tell right off the bat who's playing who.
It's the magic hair.
So
the magic hair. We need a Snapchat filter on Andy to get the quaff on there.
So it started back for both of you long before 2005 when you first walked on set to film. Was it Serve All My Days? Yeah, Serve All My Days was the first one.
Serve All My Days.
Yeah. So it started before that for you, and so I just want to give kind of a quick intro without getting too deep with both of you so that everybody who's listening and watching knows who you guys are. You both have very fascinating and varied backgrounds, one from the East Coast, one from the West Coast. So maybe starting with you, Andy, tell us how you got into Star Trek in the first place.
All right. Well, I was born into Star Trek. I came out of the womb a Star Trek fan. My dad's a huge Star Trek fan. From my earliest memories, I remember watching the films on VHS. That's really how I came into it. I wasn't a TOS fan, and this was before TNG. I mean, we had a few TOS tapes, so we watched them. But for me, I started life as a Star Trek fan, a Star Trek original film fan. 2, 3, and 4 over and over again. 1 as well. But our favorites were Star Trek 3. That was one we could watch without having to cover eyes when the worms went out of Walter's ears. And so always, as far as I can remember, in my bunk bed, putting up blankets, playing Star Trek with my brothers. And For anyone who doesn't know what a Star Trek fan film is or what New Voyages is, don't feel bad. Even at the height of our popularity, nobody knew what we were. Yeah. So we would go to conventions and like, who's heard of Star Trek New Voyages? And crickets, crickets, crickets. So
one hand, maybe one-handed.
Yeah, a niche thing. It's really like the most obsessive Star Trek fans who just, you know, in a vacuum of Star Trek, no Star Trek Enterprise before JJ's Star Trek, they needed their Star Trek. You know, in the 70s they made fan fiction. In the 2000s they made fan films, and I got into it. I was, you know, hanging out with my roommate, another non-working actor looking for work, Subhash Mandel. We were in my apartment, my tiny one-bedroom apartment, and we had a breakdown services. The breakdown services are every day. Every audition is listed on the breakdown services, and we're just scrolling through it, and we came across this Star Trek play. Normally, because I'm a film actor, I would snub my nose up at any stage play production. But because it was Star Trek, I was like, well, let's look at this. There's Spock's Brain, a word-for-word retelling of the original series episode, Spock's Brain, done straight but for laughs. You know, with every little sound effect, every little bit of music in there. And it was produced by Paramount Pictures. They wanted it to be an off-Broadway million-dollar hit like the Brady Bunch revival in the 90s. Which was never going to happen because they only let us do it in the tiny improv in Orange County. They didn't want us to bring it to LA because they thought if it came up to LA and it was not a success, that we would kill the franchise.
Right.
That our tiny little play would kill the 40-year franchise. But it was huge in Orange County. We sold out every day, and we got to take it to Las Vegas, the convention, this big Star Trek convention. And we were there on Thursday, the same day that Walter Koenig was there. So Gabe Diani, who played Spock, was like, Andy, you got to go talk to Walter. And so I went up to the question and answer. Mr. Koenig, yes. I'm an actor, Andy Bray. I'm in a Star Trek play, Spock's Brain. Maybe you saw the poster. Oh, yes. Of everyone on the poster, you look the most like who you're supposed to look like. Well, I'm just wondering if you could come and see the play. Oh, absolutely. I'll be there. And he came and was sitting front row center the entire production.
Oh,
and
wow.
He came afterwards. He said hi to everyone. He was super nice. He shook our hands. He took photos with us. He told me I was great. He thought it was amazing that I was 22 years old, which is how old Chekhov is supposed to be in the original series. But Walter was always 31 or started.
He's not, yeah.
And then he said, but one thing, you do this lip thing when you play Chekhov. What is that? I said, well, Walter, Mr. Koenig, when I started doing the part, I didn't think I could do the accent. And I watched episode after episode over and over again. And then finally, I noticed you do this lip thing. And when I started doing that, I immediately absolutely started doing the accent. It was very easy after that. And he said, I don't do that lip thing.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I don't think I do the lip thing. But you were amazing. Absolutely incredible. It was very good. And then that was in the summer. That was like August of 2004. Then Christmas 2004, wow. I was in Miami visiting my folks, and I got an email from Jack Marshall, co-creator of Star Trek New Voyages and director. Said, we're doing an episode. Walter Koenig's going to play Chekhov in it, and he says that you have to play young Chekhov. And the idea that I would be offered a role and then offered a role in a Star Trek where I get to play Chekhov opposite of Walter is just mind-blowing.
Mind blown, yeah.
And then, got to rehearse with Walter in his house. And the very first thing he says to me is like, okay, Andy, I went back and watched some Star Trek. I do the lip thing. Yeah, you're right. And then I was like, yes.
Perfect. Well, John, I mean, your intro into it is almost as crazy, but of course you're coming from the East Coast side.
Yeah.
And I remember vividly just the other night reading this part of the book where you're talking about your drive all the way up to Ticonderoga just to make another drive. So tell us a little bit about your first time meeting James.
Yeah, I mean, so around the time that Andy is doing Spock's Brain on stage, I'm discovering fan films over a weekend, and I was like, wow, this is fascinating. You know, there are all these Star Wars fan films. Keep in mind, it was 2004. So I like Andy, I grew up loving Star Trek, the original series in syndication and movies. And I thought, well, I wonder if someone has created a Star Trek fan film. So I looked around, And interestingly, in 2004, there weren't as many out there. Now there's so many of them, right? And since, we did New Voyages, I mean, it's like every month there was a new Star Trek fan film being announced. But in 2004, you didn't have that many. I stumbled onto the pilot episode and I noticed, wait a minute, there's a glaring omission here. They don't have a Sulu there. So I just contacted them. I had no idea, whether or not they were going to do another episode or what their deal was. And long story short, a couple months later, James Cawley reached out to me. He said, hey, why don't you come up to the sets and we'll talk about the role. So I figured, okay, I'm going up for an audition. I think upstate New York, probably Scarsdale or somewhere like that. No, Ticonderoga. It's like 12 hours on the road. I'd never been there before. I mean, I had a vague recollection of Ticonderoga from history class in grade school. And then as I'm driving, it's becoming more and more remote. My cell signal's dying. I'm thinking, wait a minute, what's going on here? Do they really film Star Trek up here? And then, at the time, the sets were first located in Ticonderoga. It was actually a very small part of the bridge. And, James was the curator. I mean, he had this lifelong obsession. He, as Andy mentioned, he had these sets before there was ever a New Voyages. And basically, I lobbied for the role, got the role, and the rest was history. And it just next thing I know, I'm flying out to Pasadena, and that's where I meet Andy, and we're at a table at the Grand Slam convention promoting New Voyages. And it was because when I joined, they didn't know what the next episode was going to be. There was talk of maybe getting Walter Koenig. It was very early in that stage. But as soon as I joined, I mean, it was a snowball effect. They got DC Fontana to write the script. They got Walter Koenig. It was just like, wow. I just stumbled onto this, and it was crazy. I had no idea how big it was going to get.
Yeah, it takes off pretty fast. I mean, from the time you get that initial interview with James, I know there's a waiting period there where you're not sure what's happening. But then when you do go out to Pasadena and you and Andy meet, I mean, at this point, I know that you guys have remained good friends. But tell us how you two, when you first met, how that worked between the two of you. What clicked?
I hate the guy.
We had a Seinfeld moment, that bizarro world Seinfeld, because Andy was there with some of Spock's brain castmates. And here I am, with Doc John and Jeff, from New Voyages. I just literally met them the day before. And there was a moment where we were just like face to face with our
sizing each other
counterparts, staring each other down, kind of like, so you played Sulu in the stage play, I mean, that kind of thing. But it was great. It was just kind of a bizarre double mint commercial moment. But Andy and I, we bonded. I think it was during one of the dinners on the drive back. We were with Jack Trevino, who was also a friend of the production. He's best known for the story Little Green Men from Deep Space Nine. And all of a sudden, Andy and I break out into the Sulu Chekhov shtick, I think from Star Trek 5 or one of the episodes, and Trevino's just cracking up. So I think that's where Andy and I found that rapport. And I mean, like you, I appreciated his humor, and that was the thing that I noticed about him, is that sense of humor that just kept us all in stitches, during that time and during the production. And we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, I'll say in all seriousness, I think when as soon as I met John, I mean, he's so easygoing and so likable and amiable. I think part of me knew, well, this is Sulu, I'm Chekhov. We kind of have to be friends. It's sort of it's sort of the rule when you're making stuff. We're going to spend so much time sitting with each other. And we did at Pasadena. We were literally like next to each other, next to the little box, the TV box that was showing old episode of New Voyages, In Harm's Way. And we were just kind of already promoting this episode we hadn't even filmed, this series we hadn't even started filming on. And I think we knew from the get-go, we're going to have to be friends. We might as well start talking to each other.
Well, you're going to spend a lot of time together, too, so it better be amicable in some way, shape, or form. So how does that work? Tell us how that works in terms of you're not getting paid, per se, for doing anything.
Andy was getting paid. And we do address this in the book.
I know.
And so he came in, as a member of the, and it was such a weird time because the Screen Actors Guild had not defined what the rules were for fan films. They eventually came up.
Or really anything on the internet.
It was Wild West at that
about
point.
A year later,
Yeah.
They came up with a whole set of rules for internet films, but at the time that there were no rules to this. So basically, they had to treat Andy as acting in an indie film, right? The day rate for SAG player
was Walter. Walter insisted that I had to be paid. He wanted me to be treated like a professional actor. And so I'm not sure I would have been paid otherwise. And the weird thing is I didn't know who I could say that to. I knew that Walter said that I get paid. I knew James and Jack knew about it, but I didn't want to say anything to the rest of the cast. I think at one point John mentioned that he knew I was getting paid. And it's like, oh, thank God I can talk to someone about it. It's like, yeah, I'm getting money for this. I mean, I felt kind of horrible. I knew nobody else was getting paid for it. And
what do you feel horrible about, man? You got the sweetest gig. You should be reveling in it. Come on.
I would have
That's right. That's right.
I know. I should have just played it up. Hey, who else is getting paid? I'm Mr. Moneybags.
Yeah, exactly. It's like all meals are on Andy. That's
there you go. Well, it should have been better than the $50 a day that you probably started with at some point, right?
Yeah,
Being in Hollywood,
and that's the thing. I mean, Andy was paid the SAG rate. I mean, this is in our books. It's not like he's getting paid a lot. And as an actor,
it was like a lot. It was like, wow, what a pay!
Yeah,
$1,000 $100 a day for 10 days. Woohoo!
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I knew pretty early on, and I think Andy actually said to me, "Hey, Don, I just wanted to let you know, I'm getting paid for this." I was like, "Yeah, I knew that already." It was like not a big deal for me. Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak for the rest of the cast, but it was never a big deal for me, just because just the opportunity to act in this and to be with Walter Koenig, to act in a script written by DC Fontana. I never expected that. I mean, it was really, I felt like Forrest Gump just running through like this incredible moment in history. And I'm like, seriously, what am I doing here? This is great.
Well, it's great because, I mean, nowadays, obviously, things are totally different. And a lot of other times I've heard from different folks on different sets who have done different fan films that this has always been a very sticky, kind of gross, difficult subject for people to handle. And it's always been this point of contention of who gets paid and who doesn't, or who gets some sort of compensation and who doesn't. And it can ruin things. So it's great that it didn't in your guys' case, or in the case of the whole New Voyages cast. So there's a lot of great stuff. If you're listening to this show and have never seen any of the New Voyages stuff, you need to go and watch it. Certainly the very first one, at least, if you're going to pick up the book too. But you don't have to watch any of them, obviously, to read the book. The book's, you're going to love the book anyway. If you're a Star Trek fan, period, you're going to love the book. So, but you need to at least go watch them if you haven't. And it does come out. I mean, you can kind of tell in fan films if there's people that are on the set or acting or otherwise who kind of have a love affair with it. You can tell. It's obvious. You can tell with the amount of thought that's put into the details. You can tell with the amount of time and effort to make it look just right. You see that on the series, and you can definitely feel it in the book. So.
Yeah, we had a lot of people involved who just absolutely loved Star Trek, and we talk about locals who were there, the Port Henry, Ticonderoga locals, who spent, even before we came up there, they were spending their weekends building sets, getting the studio ready, making costumes, and they devoted so much time and effort and energy for free to making costumes, making sets, paying the bills for that building.
Oh yeah, a lot of them donated money. I mean, keep in mind, this was
to and from the airport.
This was years before crowdfunding, so that didn't exist.
Yeah,
no, there was no Kickstarter. There was no Indiegogo. No. There was none of that.
No, they donated their own money to make this dream a reality, and they did it because they love Star Trek. And yeah, they're definitely, and we try to name them out and make them the heroes of the book, but they're definitely the heroes of the series for sure. It's what they did made that fan film possible.
Any other little insights or I mean, like I said, I'm about halfway through, so I'm starting to feel this little up and this little down areas. So some of that you got to share with the audience that don't know some of that. I don't want to give the whole book away, but you got to share some of those ups and downs with the rest of the people that are listening.
Well, like any production, there is drama involved because there's egos involved. We had Jack Marshall and James Cawley, co-creators of Star Trek New Voyages, who both in their minds were sole creators of Star Trek New Voyages. Yeah. They were both kind of there was this tug of war going on over who was really the creator of New Voyages and who was running it. And they would start taking media interviews on their own, without telling the other. And they would start kind of making decisions without telling the other. And finally, after Walter disappeared, he had filmed his part and we were in post-production. That's when it came to a head because suddenly they were both trying to take over the production, and it created what we call the New Voyages Civil War.
Yeah.
It led to a lot of drama.
It also resulted in multiple cuts of this film. I call it the Blade Runner of fan films to serve all my days, because there are so many versions of this. And in fact, in preparing for the book, Andy and I hadn't seen the episode in a long time, so we said, you know what, we should probably watch the episode before we start talking about it. And we ended up watching different cuts of the episode. And when we got on the phone, we were like, no, wait a minute. That's not what happened here. And exactly. It really was like we were watching two different films. We had to go back the next night and watch what the other person had watched so we could have a coherent conversation. So that was a bizarre experience.
I watched Jack's version, Jack's director's cut, because what happened at the end of our New Voyages Civil War, Jack got booted, and it became James took over
the Civil War.
And Jack went on. He ended up making his own director's cut, but he didn't have. After the Civil War was concluded, we had to go back and do reshoots because we were missing so much. And there were, when Jack was directing it, Jack had a monumental task of making a Star Trek episode with Walter Koenig, one of the original cast members. Yeah. And so his goal was to get it done. The last thing he wanted was to get to the end of Walter's availability and be like, okay, I missed 7 scenes with Walter Koenig. We don't have an episode. So he was all about getting it done, which meant he was kind of George Lucas directing it. Faster, more intense, 2 takes, we're moving on. He wasn't spending a lot of time working with his actors to get good performances. So not only when we finished production, not only did we discover, and I think Doug Drexler was the one who discovered that we were missing a lot of coverage. We had a lot of scenes that were lacking certain camera angles, but a lot of the acting was pretty atrocious. It was just so quickly done that we didn't have the acting we needed. And so we needed that to get that all done in reshoots. But the version I saw, the director's cut, was Jack's version. He didn't have his hands on the reshoots. He just had the original footage. And so I was watching myself saying, oh my God, I'm horrible in this. I thought I was at least decent. I am awful in this. I can't believe I should have never tried to act. I'm so bad. And John was like, what are you talking about, Andy? You're great in this. It's like, no, I'm horrible. And I went back and watched the other version. It's like, oh, thank God I can act. Okay.
A little better, yeah.
Yeah, but Andy, that other version's out there.
I know. Don't, you guys, whoever watches this.
It's like the Star Wars Christmas special. We don't want to acknowledge another version as much as possible, right?
Yeah, even Harrison Ford was bad in that.
That's making me
exactly.
Wonder. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's making me wonder which version I watched. I may have watched all of them. I don't know. It was a long time ago, and then I watched the other one a couple days ago, and it's like, which one did I watch? I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and look at it.
And there's a whole thing with the ending too. So that's not even counting the different cuts based off of the controversial ending to the episode. So that's a whole other thing out there.
One starts with Doug Drexler's amazing special effects. One has JB&B's effects in it. One has Darren Doctorman's effects in it. And so, and I think the official version now also has my ending on it. It was all a drunk vodka-induced dream ending.
Yeah.
Which was filmed way after the episode.
Yeah, I didn't have this
had
hair.
already
I
been
had
out.
Short hair, and I had to put on like a Chekhov wig, and we filmed it. And Ralph Miller, our sound guy, we went to his apartment.
Richard
Ralph,
Nickens.
myself, and Gooch, our director for New Voyages after Jack left. We went into this tiny little apartment. I laid down. I put on a wig. It must have been the vodka. It was all a drunk drink and ruined the end of the episode.
Yeah, really. I mean, but hey, what can you do at that point?
Yeah. Even I called it Walter beforehand. I was like, Walter, they want to put on a drunk ending. Is that okay? He's like, yeah, Andy, I guess it's what the fans want.
No.
Andy was hoping that Walter would say absolutely not.
not.
Yeah. I would put my foot down and say, Walter says no, so I say no.
That's right.
James called him up and convinced him that the fans didn't like the fact that Chekhov died in the episode. It was always supposed to be like a what if kind of, like those comic books. What if the Incredible Hulk was a bad guy? What if Thanos was an Avenger? And this was what if Chekhov had died in the original series. We all knew. Obviously, Chekhov lives past the original series. He's in 7 movies. He lived. We knew that. But Walter wanted what every actor wants, a death scene. And he also wanted to kind of this character that he had built and lived with for 40 years of his life. He wanted to give him, not only way more than he had ever had in any of the episodes or movies, an entire episode devoted to Chekhov, but he wanted to give him a send-off, kind of. He called it the period at the end of his career as Chekhov. And in his mind, that was killing off the character and giving him a death and having every other character tell him, you meant something, you were important, we loved you. And fans could either just deal with it as a what if. It's not canon, we're a fan film. We're not official by any means. but a lot of them felt like we were watching a fan film that we needed to feel like it was canon, because this was our continuation of original series. But we were making just a what if, or if you had to, just fine, the credits roll, just imagine in your head that McCoy then remembers how to be a doctor and he cures Chekhov. Fine. But some of them were loud and vocal about it, and James then convinced Walter
convicted,
yeah.
But convinced him that that's what fans wanted. And so Walter told me, that's what the fans want, go ahead and do it. And I did it. I felt awful about it. And then at the premiere, we had not bothered to tell Dorothy Fontana what we did to the end of her episode.
Oh no.
Oh god. Gosh, yeah.
Whoops. The first thing she did was got up on stage and said, the episode was great, I didn't write that ending. It's a fine episode. I did not write the ending. And then spent the rest of the premiere walking up to everybody in the audience telling them, I didn't write that ending.
Well, she's had that happen to her before.
She was definitely, oh man, it definitely rubbed her the wrong way.
I bet it did.
Everyone she introduced me to, this is Andy, he was great in the episode, but I didn't like that ending. That ending was not mine. What have we done? Legendary writer, Dorothy Fontana, what have we done?
And that's not the first time that happened to her either, unfortunately. There's several times on TOS where she'd write something and somebody else would get credit for it, or she'd write something and someone would come in and change it. Same thing with TNG.
So it's definitely not something writers like. And as I mentioned mentioned in the book, that is like the cardinal sin of writing, that it was all a dream. Writers hate that. So the fact that we did that to her episode, she was nice enough to do a fan film episode, and then we did that to her episode, man, I don't blame her at all.
The only episode, and I guess I can't say that it's necessarily a dream, but Far Beyond the Stars on DS9 with Benjamin Sisko, when he goes back to the 50s and he's a writer, and that's kind of a dream. That's one that pulls it off, and that's about the only time I've ever seen him pull it off is about that. But you're right, that's kind of
up front. Yeah, they up front kind of tell you that this is kind of a dream sequence. This is not a real thing, or even Inner Light, which is kind of like a dream. But it's pretty clear up front. These are memories being implanted in either their heads by, whether it's by an alien satellite or whether it's by the prophets or the wormhole aliens inserting it into Sisko's mind. I think the fact that you do it up front rather than pulling the rug at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's horrible. Not that way. Not that way.
Don't
time loop something else maybe, but not a it was all a dream, it never happened kind of thing.
Yeah, and a drunk dream and just like a really after credits thing is. I knew when we were filming that ending that fans are going to object, and there were plenty of websites too. I think Trek Movie, did a review of our night in 1969 new ending. They're like, oh man, then they did the drunk ending. They ruined it.
As if Chekhov was a drunk on the bridge anyway, So,
yeah, exactly.
Let's just add insult to injury. Well, out of all of the original TOS cast as well, I kind of have a soft spot for Walter, because I really think that out of all of them, he's the one who probably got short shrift out of the rest of them. You know what I mean? I mean, whenever you go to a convention, whenever you're seeing different things going on with throughout the movies as they went forward, he never got decent part. He always had good parts, but he never really became a focal point like a lot of the other actors and actresses did. It just, I don't know, it just felt like to me like out of all of them, he kind of got short shrift. So he's always had a little soft spot in my heart for that.
He got his Hollywood star like way after everyone else. He only recently got it a few years back, and so I think partly the reason is it's easier to overlook the little Russian guy with the Davy Jones haircut, rather than Star Trek was so monumental in putting an Asian American on the bridge, putting an African American on the bridge. And so, people kind of forget how important a Russian was in the middle of the Cold War.
Very different in the 60s and early 70s than it is today, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And that's a bigger part if they hadn't been canceled, as he talks about.
And that's the irony. That's one of the themes in the book. Is the irony is that Chekhov gets, or Walter gets, the period at the end of this monumental career for the character in a Star Trek episode that's not official, that's not produced by the studio.
Yeah, it's the only time
it was written by DC Montana, and we had people behind the scenes who worked on the official series. But that's the whole. I mean, I can't imagine what it was like for Walter to film a deathbed scene on an episode that's not considered Star Trek canon, and that part I imagine must be really. I mean, honestly, I think that was one of the big ironies of this whole thing. Is that he got his due.
Rug ripped out from underneath him.
Yeah, he got his due from fans, and fans who really wanted to see this. And this was the first time. I know we take it for granted that there are a lot of Star Trek fans with original series actors guest starring in them, but Walter Koenig, To Serve All My Days, that was the first time, and that was big. 2004, 2005.
It's pretty amazing. It took fans coming up and making Star Trek to give Chekhov his due, to give Walter his due. I mean, the studio never really respected the actors. They never really, they were just a commodity. It took fans who, grew up loving and idolizing these guys to finally say, you know what, it's about time we recognize Chekhov and Walter Koenig and we give him an entire episode. And that's definitely, it shows you the devotion of fans and the love of fans for the original series and the original actors.
Well, I think even too over time between, say, 80s and 90s versus late 2000s up to now, the definition of what it means to be a fan of anything has changed drastically. I mean, the entire industry around fandom, if you want to call it that, or nerddom or geekdom and all that, it's totally different nowadays, all the way to the point where you can have someone like Chris Hardwick who starts a website and all he wants to do is talk about pop culture and comic books, makes a couple $1 million. I mean,
fans are running the industry now. I mean, you look at the people making Star Trek and Star Wars and
they
Marvel
were fans.
films. They all grew up as fans. And I think studios have finally realized, give it to the fans. Give it to people who know the property. Let them make it. Yeah, they need to have filmmaking credentials as well. But, don't just pick some name out of a hat, out of a studio hat, and give something like that to them. Make sure you find someone who understands the property that they're creating new stuff for.
Right. Okay. So tell us a little bit about all the other folks you had in the background and behind the scenes, even those who kind of came in and guest starred throughout the series here, because it's more than just Walter. You had lots, obviously, DC Fontana, we talked about her, but you had a lot of other people involved with this thing as well. Can you tell us a little bit about those for people who don't know?
Yeah, folks involved with Star Trek. Well, I mean, starting with the first New Voyages episode, Come What May, they had Kyle. Yeah. The famous red shirt, Eddie Paskey.
Yep.
And Transporter Chief Kyle. I'm blanking on his name. Is it James
John Winston? Was it John Winston or Winthrop? Gosh. Yeah, the name escapes me.
I don't feel bad for not knowing that one either.
Yeah.
And then in the second
Star Trek
episode,
2 also. I do know that.
In Harm's Way, they had a Commodore.
Malachi Throne.
Yeah, Malachi Throne. And they had
William Wyndham, and reprising his role as from the Doomsday Machine. Commodore. Oh gosh, I'm going to lose my Trek heads.
Commodore
Decker. Commodore Matthew Decker.
I was going to guess Decker, but I was
it's
going to be
Decker.
like, if I say it, I'm going to be wrong, and then I'm going to get toasted.
Barbara Luna was in that episode. Although, she's famous for her role in Mirror Mirror, but she was playing a different character.
We talked over it. Say the name again.
Oh, Barbara Luna. She was in Harm's Way as well. She played. Yeah.
And then behind the scenes, we had Doug Drexler, who at the time was working for Paramount Star Trek Enterprise, so he was under the secret name of Max Rem because they didn't want their Paramount overlords to know that they were involved in this fan film, this unofficial fan film. And we had another gentleman who we didn't reveal his secret name or his real name in the book, so we just
Eric Korngold.
Eric Korngold, who also worked on real Star Trek, but was working on our fan film. He and Doug were helping out advising, and Doug was doing special effects, and they were helping with the bridge, and they were involved and they actually wrote In Harm's Way as well.
Yep, they did. And Gold wrote some of the vignettes. So we also did some shorts, and I think we had 6 planned, and then 2 ended up going to air, and tell more of that story in the book.
Yeah, that's covered in the books, the failure of the vignettes. And then
which is interesting because when you watch Discovery now, they do things. They use short form storytelling. Yeah.
It's like, why didn't we think of that? Oh, we did
the
think
short
of that.
tracks.
We wanted to do it.
We did.
And then To Serve All My Days, we had Walter Koenig, we had Dorothy Fontana, and then we also had Mary Linda Rapley, who played Irina, the Russian who Chekhov knew in
That's right.
Way to Eden.
Yep.
I spent an entire chapter making fun of that episode. Not a good episode. She's fine in it, and she's a lovely, lovely person. I had so much fun working with Mary Linda. She was so sweet, and she was an absolute hardcore believer in rehearsing. Like, she would track me down to find me and rehearse me. And then she would go tracking James down, which was not an easy task, trying to find James, because he was always either doing his Elvis thing or making costumes or making sets. It was impossible to find James. He never had time to rehearse. And she was just out of her mind, because to her, acting is rehearsing. So she was always rehearsing with me, rehearsing with Walter. And then she couldn't find James to rehearse. He was never available, and it drove her crazy. But she was so wonderful and lovely to work with. I had such a great time cramming that.
And that's something that I think Andy brings up, which I think is also important, is that the guest stars, they treated this very seriously. Even though this was an official studio production, they really, really treated it seriously. And I think that inspired all the other cast to really put the time in rehearsing, knowing your lines, that kind of thing. So we all took it as
there were some cast members who, like James, who kind of just, to them, they were still in like fan film mode, which was just kind of get it done, get it shot. These are the scenes we got to do, make sure the sets and the costumes look amazing, and get it shot. They had not yet transitioned into that kind of more professional rehearse and get the scene right.
Get the performances down.
Make that jump. Mary Linda helped, Walter helped, and then eventually it was our director, our assistant director, who became our director, Gooch, Eric Goodrich, who kind of finally started instilling that, rehearsals. Let's do 3 rehearsals before we start filming. Let's rehearse the scene, walk through it on set. That kind of, we're making film now. This is professional, or some people call it fan-fessional. Some people call it Star Trek. But we were trying to make a more professional film than just the, make it look like Star Trek. No, it had to not only look like Star Trek, but it had to feel like Star Trek, and it had to have a good performance. Good performances in it.
Well, when you care about something as much as you guys obviously do, you want to put some real effort into it, and you want it to come off good and clean. Because at the end of the day, hate to say it, that's going to end, and you got to do something else, and you got to be able to point to it proudly and say, "I did that."
That's what we wanted. We
wanted
to have, like, credits on our IMDb's that wouldn't be like shameful. To look at this and be like, hey, those guys are pretty good.
Exactly. So don't look at the sock puppet over here in the corner kind of thing. You want to be proud of it, right? And point to it. So
watch versions 2 and 7 of To Serve All My Days, and then just forget about the rest.
Watch the correct versions. Don't watch the director's cut.
I hope that comes through, John, because every once in a while you're getting a little choppy, just to give you
a heads up. I getting a little choppy? Okay.
Yeah. So just a heads up. But anyway, so kind of brushing past, I'm going to do this really fast. I apologize, but brushing past all of your time on the set, going through all of this with New Voyages, obviously you've moved on to other things. Can you tell us about what you guys are doing now?
Writing a book.
Well, exactly.
Well, the acting thing, we had both kind of parlayed that into auditions as much as we could. We both got auditions for J.J. Abrams' Star Trek film, which was like a highlight, an amazing opportunity. Spoiler alert, we didn't get any parts in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek.
Went to the John. I can tell you that.
And John Lim lost out to John Cho for playing. But you know, I continued.
Just so there's no confusion.
That was not John up there.
Well, if you have to lose to somebody, John Cho, I mean, come on, that's that's tough.
Hey, there you go.
And I continued the acting thing as much as I could, but I ended up meeting someone. I have a family, and I had to get the 9 to 5. I now work at Creation Entertainment, which is the folks who put on the Star Trek convention that met me, Walter Koenig, all those years ago. And I've found a way to kind of keep my creative side by transitioning into writing. And that started with writing screenplays, but then thinking, writing books is so much more independent. There's so much more freedom, and it's kind of easier. Writing a screenplay is not what it used to be. Trying to break out in the screenplays, whereas, writing a book, it's so much easier to get a book published nowadays, taking the route that John and I did. And just that to me was an opportunity to take something and that we had done all those years ago and use it as kind of a stepping stone to doing a new career, which is writing, which is kind of where I see myself now, as less of an actor and more of a writer.
Well, it comes through. I mean, it's a great book. Everything I've read so far is fantastic. It's fascinating. So,
what do you do now, John? What's John Lim up to?
Yeah, what's
Hey,
John up to?
Back
to being an attorney.
I took. Oh, actually, I left the legal profession behind. I'm more of a serial entrepreneur now, and just involved in a lot of ventures. But writing is probably one of the most fun things. And Andy and I had such a fun time with this book. And one of the questions we get asked is, "Are we going to get another one? Are we going to get another one?" So just read the book, and there's a little teaser at the end. So as they say, stay tuned. But I'm just enjoying life. I mean, I love the fact that Andy and I can continue to talk about this and to share it with an audience. Because as I say, for many years, Andy and I used to just tell each other these stories. We were like a pair of old men reliving our glory days over
gabbing about the good old days.
Yeah, but now, I mean, we get to share it with so many people, and that was one of the things that really, I think, drew us to writing this book. It was, why are we just telling these stories to ourselves? I mean, we asked this a lot. To this day, people still ask us about that Star Trek thing we did back in the 2000s. So that's really what the impetus was to write this book.
Yeah, these stories made us laugh so much. We thought, come on, we got to share them with somebody else.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. They're great. They're fantastic. So I'm glad you did. I mean, that's part of why the three of us, myself and Daniel and Dan, do the podcast, TrekCast Now, and took over for David Ivey, is because we kind of all have that same need to talk about the episodes and the shows and the people we've met and the people we've talked to and people like yourself that I'm starting to get to talk to that I've never had an opportunity to talk to before, and I'm loving every minute of it. And that's part of it for us too. It's stories. That's really what it comes down to. It's the stories and the shared stories of one another and all the people we've met, and that's what makes it fun. So that's great. I can hear that in your guys' voice. I can see that in your faces that you guys are enjoying it, and that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So
yeah, and this is a whole chapter of Star Trek that a lot of people don't even know about. They don't know about fan films. They don't know about the era of fan films between the end of Star Trek Enterprise and the beginning of J.J. Abrams films and Discovery, where there was this need by fans to have something, and it was filled by fan films, and they exploded during that period, and then they kind of calmed down when JJ introduced his Star Trek and there was new Star Trek, and then crowdfunding kind of caused another explosion of fan films. But it also kind of eventually caused a shutdown of fan films.
To kill it.
But there's a whole, that's a whole chapter of Star Trek that some people don't know about, and the ones who do know about it may not know what goes into making a fan film. That's why we thought, this is a funny chapter of Star Trek that people don't even know about, and the craziness of making fan films that people may not understand. we hope that people enjoy the book and get laughs out of the book, and then maybe learn something about this era of Star Trek from the book.
Well, I know I am so far. I mean, honestly, I can honestly say I've been a Star Trek fan my entire life. I've watched it ever since I was a little kid. I did not start with TOS. I started with TNG, actually, and then went back and watched TOS and everything else. I didn't really start getting into fan films until it was too late. I mean, honestly, just in the last 3 or 4 years, which means it's too late. And that's when I started watching.
You have a whole library, though.
I do.
So much.
I do. Got a lot of content. You pointed out at one point in the book, why does someone need to make a fan film when there's 732 episodes of Star Trek a real Trek to actually watch? And the answer is because I've seen them all.
And it really speaks to the passion, as Andy has talked about, the passion of the fans. I mean, as Andy said, this was a time where the fans who loved Star Trek, grew up with it, get together. And one thing I don't think he emphasized enough was that To Serve All My Days, we had people flying in from all over the world to be part of this production. I mean, John Kerrigan, who played the Klingon baddie, he came from England, and in fact, he was with Walter. That's how we got Walter Koenig in this production, and we just had people from all over the world coming together to make Star Trek. It was really an amazing time, and it's a period that won't ever come again, at least not the way it was back when we did it.
Unfortunately not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately
and we
not.
I forgot to mention one person from To Serve All My Days we did have. Because again, this was so new, the idea of making fake Star Trek with real Star Trek actors. We had Kevin Haney, Oscar-winning from Driving Miss Daisy, big Star Trek fan. He came on to do the prosthetic makeup that I wear and that Walter wears when Walter ages and ages. Because this is, I don't think we mentioned this either, this is a sequel to The Deadly Years, the episode where everybody ages. Except for Chekhov, because he had screamed and it released adrenaline, which was the key to saving it. But now, thanks to a radiation blast, young Chekhov starts to age into Walter Koenig. Not young Chekhov.
These impromptu aging effects.
Yeah.
If not for Kevin Haney, Andy would have had to do this episode.
So we had an Oscar winner doing our makeup, which is incredible that we could get that. Back then, it was the idea of making Star Trek fan films with real Star Trek actors was so novel that we would have people like Kevin Haney willing to do it, willing to slum it out in the middle of nowhere, Port Henry, and sleep in a cabin and make a tiny little room into his makeup studio. It was incredible.
Well, all of that comes from their love
used
of
car
it,
dealership building.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all about the fans need to have more Star Trek. It's never enough. They always need more.
Well, I think that's what causes nowadays, especially when you've got everything's online, everything's instant, everything is you can have a comment and feedback without having a whole lot of thought instantly on everything anymore. And so now you get the problem of, Discovery comes on and 90% of the people who watch it probably really enjoy it, but if you go look online, it's trash. So
you have to ignore online commentators.
You do.
It's always the angry people. Like with
and that was true back in the day. I mean,
yeah.
That was true back when we made My Days too.
Mostly, and I talk about this in the book. Fans, they treated us on a curve. They were kind of sympathetic to us. They knew we were fans making Star Trek, and so they graded our episode on a curve for sure. They were nice. With the acting was not up to their standards. They would say, well, it's fan film acting. They didn't take us to task as much. I think nowadays we would have got ripped to shreds.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like you said, though, I think it's an era gone by that if it ever comes back, it'll be in such a different form at that point. That it won't be the same. It just won't be the same. So, okay, anything that I didn't cover that I didn't know to ask that you guys want to add in here real quick?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered everything. Just say the book is available now.
Yeah, there it is.
At Amazon.
Yep, and everybody listening should go get a copy.
It is available for both Kindle and paperback. So
it's all on Amazon, though, right?
And it's all on
trying
Amazon.
to find the picture. We've got pictures. But no, we just had such a great time making both the fan film and then years later, just the opportunity to write about it. We were remembering so much that we'd forgotten over the years. And it was just suddenly, the process of writing it, it would just suddenly dawn on us like, oh, I'd forgotten all about that.
Yeah.
Talking it out with John, because we decided the best way to start writing this book was to just record ourselves having conversations and say, let's talk about, the first meeting Walter Koenig. Let's talk about our first glimpses of the set. And we just talked it out. And that would flush out so many memories that we didn't have. I had completely forgotten the fact that when we first went back to do reshoots, it was actually my second reshoots, and this was the Hands on Deck reshoot, I didn't have a place to sleep. They had taken care of our accommodations for the main shoot, but when we went out to the reshoots, we were on our own, and somebody was like, where am I sleeping? I'd forgotten that it was John Lim.
And that's a whole story. That's the whole story.
Doc John, Dr. McCoy, who had saved my butt, mine and Jeff's butts, and we all went in dorm room style in some hotel room. Otherwise, I would have been sleeping on the steps of the studios.
Now, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get it done, right? I mean, that's the way it goes. All right, so question for you guys. specifically about TrekCast itself. What made you guys reach out to me, and specifically my chadiswrong Gmail account for the show?
Well, that was me. I was trying to find. I thought everyone who worked on this production, who's read our book, who are big Star Trek fans, they've absolutely loved it. And everyone who came across the book, and we've heard from so many fans who came across the book who had no idea what New Voyages was, but read the book and just said, "This is great. This is fun." And we thought we wanted to get word out. We feel like we're very proud of our product, and if we could get the word out to Star Trek fans, because we're Star Trek fans ourselves, we enjoy talking about this. We know that fans would enjoy reading about it. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to reach out to podcasts. And I'm not sure how I found the Chad is Wrong email versus whatever your official one is. I think I found your website, and I think that was the email on it, or I found someone else's email and it linked to that. I don't know. I don't even remember. I'm glad I came across it.
I find it funny on our end because that whole thing started as a joke in the summer of last year as we were doing one of the shows, and we got into a little bit of an argument, and then people in our Facebook group were telling me how wrong I was. And so I said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to make an email address, and if you think I'm wrong, you can email me at that. And ever since then, I get 5, 6, 7 emails a week specifically to that account about something I've either said or done or agreed with or didn't agree with or whatever. So it's kind of turned into this thing.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
I
was
had
kind
no
of
idea
curious.
that's what that was for. I thought, what an odd name for a podcast.
Yeah.
That's, for whatever reason, that's just the one I found when I was looking for different podcasts to reach out to, thinking.
Maybe it's fitting because, the book is on making fake Star Trek. So maybe there's some sort of connection.
Fake Star Trek, wrong Chad.
It was Kismet.
Kismet, there you go. That's what it is. All right, well, fantastic, guys. I had a great time. I don't want to take up like the entire day. I could probably go on and on with all kinds of other questions, but I don't want to take away from the book either. And I want everybody to go out there and get the book. It is hysterical. You will laugh. I knew I was drawn in. Yeah, there it is. I knew I was drawn in the minute you talked about your Vanilla Ice cassette tape getting worn out. You listened to it so many times.
Yeah, I'm not proud of it, but there it is.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. So for a minute, I thought, I'm going to ask Andy if he'll sing Ice Ice Baby with me, but no.
I memorized it. I really honestly memorized it for a Cub Scout skit. I can't remember much of it. When it comes on, I can sing along with it.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Luckily, my brain has just flushed most of it out.
Exactly. All right, well, gentlemen.
Enough, I was like running it through my head like a week ago, just thinking about South Beach, all the girls in bikinis looking fly, or wearing less than
started. I could probably start it up, but I probably should have done that. I should have put that in the soundboard ahead of time so I could play it. That would have been maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll go back and edit and put Ice Ice Baby as the opener.
and then get sued by Queen.
Yeah, something. Yeah. Who knows? I've stuck a whole bunch of audios in our shows before.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. All right, well, guys, I appreciate the time. It was wonderful meeting the two of you. Thank you so much for dedicating an hour of your Sunday afternoon to talk with little old me about your book. It's fantastic. Everybody who hasn't seen the YouTube series, go watch it. It's a lot of fun. And I guess that's all I got, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Our pleasure. This was fun.
No, thank you so much.
All right, well, good luck
pleasure.
with the book.
This was great.
You guys ever need anything else, just send me an email, and I'll be sure to be plugging the book on the show when we do our next recording here, okay?
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Then the interview's over.
Right. Interview's done now.
Interview's done now. So, okay. Anything else we need to go over before we wrap up?
Just, people can reach us out on social media. trekcasttng on Twitter and Instagram. We've got the Facebook group, of course. We've got our banner at the bottom of our website.
Yeah.
For Entertainment Earth. We've got the merch store on Redbubble. Man, it's like we're a real podcast.
Yeah, we'll have that over on the website. Hopefully by the end of the day today, I'll have that up there. So before you guys are even listening to this, ittle be on the website where you can get in there and get some merchandise. So
yeah,
that'll take me all of 10 minutes to integrate that to the website.
I'm curious to see what is going to be more popular. Which design? I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Chad is wrong.
maybe.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, I'm
People
sure
seem
I'll
to
buy
love
a
that.
few. When I can,
Yeah.
I'll be buying a few.
Right on.
We'll see how that goes.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that's all I can think of.
All right, you know what we really need since we have an intro, and you're going to work
Let's-
on kind of a shorter intro?
Mm-hmm.
We need a new outro.
Yeah, we do.
Because all the outros we have are kind of...
They're dated.
They're dated, and they're David Ivey still talking.
Yeah. We'll have to work on that.
Yeah, we need to get a new one, because otherwise all I have is this.
Trekcast.
You know what? We used to have people give us intros. What if we had people do outros?
Yeah, we should. We should.
Yeah. You guys want to do an outro? Send one.
Yep, send one. You know where to go. It's chadiswrong@gmail.com or trekcasttng@gmail.com. Either one works. Either email address will get it to us, and we'll use those as outros. And I think it's time for us to recycle some of the intros that people have given us as well,
Yeah,
just
that'd be
because
great.
they're funny as shit. They're really good.
Or people can send in intros too, whatever.
Yeah. Hey, we'll use whatever you guys send in. So, and if you do voice work of any kind or impressions, and you think your Picard impression's really good, or your Geordi impression's really good, or your Worf impression, record that and send that in, and we'll use it as well.
Awesome.
So, all right, that's it. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. That's such a horrible way to end the show, but whatever.
Yeah, it's funny. That's why I got to like deadpan it.
Yeah, because then Dan will listen to this and be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, exactly.
What do you got? We
Well,
have
there you
old
go.
bumpers. Just throw an old bumper in.
Yeah.
Dan, seriously, I'm fried.
I hear you, buddy.
All right.
No, you're good. All right, man.
All right, we finally got it done. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
I'll see you. Bye.